Thank you. And now our respondents, Jenny Hume and Reed Wilson.
The goal of the county incentive zone is to create economic growth, so it can also adversely impact residents who are predominantly low income, who are displaced within the zone. Does the city owe something to these displaced residents? And if so, exactly what? This is a what and why question.
If I understood the question correctly, it starts with the premise that a tourist can displace low-income families, and should the city compensate them for that? If that situation is going on, that is an inappropriate and unacceptable use of tourist dollars. The whole idea of the tourist is to create a neighborhood, not to displace a neighborhood. So you take an undeveloped or developing neighborhood like my neighborhood in 3rd Ward. We want to recapture the dollars there, put them back into that neighborhood to bring the neighborhood up. We don't want to displace anybody in the neighborhood. So if that's happening, there's something wrong there. And that's more of a management problem, because your mayor and council appoints boards for the tourists, and they can actually give leadership and direction. And they approve the service plan.
Agreed. I have to totally agree with that. And I'd have to say that as well, if this is happening, that I don't know how it's legal that that's being done, but we need to check into that and make sure that families are not displaced.
Could I just say that the city needs a clear policy and programs as part of neighborhood revitalization to have certain anti-gentrification strategies. It's as simple as that. Good example is urban homesteading. That's an anti-gentrification program, effective in a lot of other cities. I proposed it in a budget amendment. It was rejected in the city, but that's something, that's an idea that will work in Houston. Urban homesteading.
Roy?
But I just want to go back to the tourists here. You know, there are times that we may need to give the tax incentive, but we have to have standards where, and precautions where something like that doesn't happen. But we also have to have control once it is there, and they have to have a lifespan. That's crucial.
I look at this question as a little broader, which is it relates to guiding development in the urban core, consistent with the issues that are out there in smart growth, which is taking advantage of available mass transit, infrastructure, and public amenities, typically encouraging denser development. But with denser development, you have the problems of it's too big, it's too tall, it's too ugly, there's too many people, there's too much traffic. I'd like to start with Peter Brown on this. Should the city of Houston regulate these areas, especially in areas adjacent to established single-family residential neighborhoods? If so, which of those aspects, size, height, design, density, traffic, do you think the city should regulate, and how?
You talking about neighborhood? We started out talking about transit corridors. Are you talking about neighborhoods or transit corridors?
I'm talking about development, urban core development, the issues of densification, and the fact that people say sometimes it's too big, it's too tall, it's too ugly, it's too dense, there's too much traffic. Should the city regulate those types of development aspects?
Look, we need to do a better job of managing growth and change in the city. And a basic principle ought to be that growth improves, not diminishes our quality of life. So having said that, we do need, I don't know if regulate's the word, but we need to facilitate and regulate. Facilitate in terms of incentives, regulate in terms of better standards. But one of the ways we can take, or two ways we can take the pressure off neighborhoods, the adverse impacts on neighborhoods, is we can have much stronger nuisance ordinances, because whether it's hot cheap motels, junkyards, or whatever it is, maybe not in neighborhoods that you know, but that's a severe problem all across the city. Nuisance ordinances, but we do need better standards. But if we encourage, let me just say, transit-oriented development in the rail corridors will also take the pressure off invading neighborhoods.
Thank you. Is there somebody else we can?
Well, Gene, I'd like to ask the same question, and the question is, should the city regulate the areas of size of buildings, design of buildings, density of buildings, and traffic generated by buildings? That's my point. I'm not talking about nuisance issues, I'm talking about direct regulation. Should we do that, particularly in areas adjacent to established residential neighborhoods?
I think that for me, there needs to be a rewrite of Chapter 42. And Chapter 42, for those of you who don't know, is the ordinance that kind of governs the level of planning and development in Houston. And I think all of the stakeholders who are involved, the community activists and homeowners, the development community, home builders, government officials, all need to be involved in setting out a uniform plan and policy that everybody can relate to. Having said that, and that's what I intend to work on as mayor of the city of Houston, having said that, I think there's always a role for government to regulate as it relates to health and safety. And what I'm concerned about is when government starts to relate to things like design, things like appearance, that don't directly relate to health and safety. I'm more concerned with everybody knowing what the rules are, having them transparent so that everybody can follow them. So a homeowner kind of knows what to expect from neighbors, things to come, and a developer can know up front what to anticipate when he or she.
Thank you. We're going to move on to the fifth and final question.